Welcome to tonight's episode of The Mystical Unknown. I'm your host, Angela Edwina, and tonight I will be talking with our guest, Christina. We're going to be talking about all of the UFOs, the government shooting down the UFOs, the spy balloons, and all of the current events. So I'd like to welcome Christina, and why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you are into aliens and UFOs and that kind of thing.
Okay, so I'm an artist. I live in northern PA, Bigfoot land, um, close to the home of the squonk, which is like a mythical lumberjack tale from around here. Part of the Appalachian Mountains. I grew up here. I've been a weird kid since I was about 9 years old. I spent a good chunk of my adulthood doing research and interviewing people about aliens, alien abductions. I pretty much like everything weird, as you know.
Yes, I
Um,
know.
so I mean, hey, if it's weird, I love it. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, so let's dive in. So the craziness that is happening right now. Okay,
Yes.
first it was a spy balloon. And that was
Yeah.
actually a spy balloon. Like you see them getting a balloon out of the water.
Exactly. Exactly.
But then it's all these other UFOs, or what do they call them? UAPs? Like,
Yeah,
why did they
they've
change that?
updated the terminology to unidentified aerial phenomenon, which is UAP instead of UFO. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean it's still a UFO. Like,
it's still UFO.
um, so what's your take on it?
So I have a couple takes. The most recent one, because you know how when you learn more information about something, you tend to start changing your views on it because you're getting more
Hmm.
information.
Yeah.
At first, I was like, "Holy cow!" We shot down a spy balloon. Like, this is crazy. But then I started thinking about things like Roswell and a couple other like Hecksburg, where they were like, "Nothing happened. You didn't see nothing. Don't worry
Hmm.
about it." And with Roswell, they were like, "Well, it's a weather balloon. Don't worry about it." And then after I heard about the second and the third time that they shot something down, I'm like, okay, like, first of all, was that really a spy balloon, or was it like a diversion, or was it actually like coincidence? Maybe like it just so happened as this spy balloons floating around at the same time these other three objects are out there. um Harkening back to like Roswell and stuff, I was like, okay, we have pictures of the spy balloon that they shot down.
Yeah,
Like, it's
that's
been
a
published and
big,
everything.
it's a really
Yeah.
big.
So we have pictures of that. It's out there. But, earlier today they were like, well, we may never be able to recover the three objects we shot down earlier. Like, they may never be recovered. Um, I think two in
I feel
the
like
United
that's a
States,
lie.
one in Canada. Yeah. Like, there was
Yeah.
one over Michigan. There was one over Providence in Canada, and there was one over Alaska. Um, for them to say they're never going to recover it, and then the couple days before they were like, well, we're going to work, recovering, we're going to work with Canada on recovering it and everything, and now they can't. It's just kind of like a weird little situation to me. It's kind of like, okay, so you were like, yo, we can do this. Let's go get it. And then now you're like, we're never going to be able to do it. So I'm like, did they
Right.
screw up by even saying anything? But it's like with Roswell, they were like, hey, guess what? We found a flying saucer and it crashed. This is what happened. And then like a day later, they're like, don't worry about it. It was a weather balloon. It's kind of like the similar vein. Like, they may have been oops, we said something, but now they're like, don't worry about it.
And the
You know what I
thing about
mean?
it is they shot down the balloon, the spy balloon, and they found it immediately.
Mm-hmm.
They knew exactly where they shot it down. They knew exactly where the debris was, and they went and got
Yes.
it. So you're telling me they shot down these other UFOs and they have no idea where they're at.
Yeah,
That
and I
that's not
believe,
making sense.
yeah, and the spy balloon was shot down, I believe, off the coast. So it was in the ocean. Like they found it there, but they can't find it in like, parts of Alaska. I mean,
Right.
Alaska's big, Canada's big, but they can't at least find the one in Michigan. Like it's just
I
kind
mean,
of weird to
and these are
me.
fighter jets. They have coordinates of where they
Exactly.
shot things down, so they know where it's going down.
Yeah, they do. Like they could pick a toothpick off the Empire State Building if they wanted to.
Right.
But it's another fascinating thing with that whole thing with fighter jets and fighter pilots and everything. My brother's in the Air Force. He just retired and he knows pilots and they're very skilled. They have to be very sound of mind to be a pilot. Like they have to know their shit. And it came out that some of them noticed certain things about these objects, but then they were shushed about it. Like they
Mhm.
said, well, it's this shape, it does this. A couple of them claimed it was like interfering with their actual instruments on the jets. And now they're being told, oh, no, that didn't happen. Don't worry about it.
So that reminds me of like Roswell, Area 51, where people would start to speak up, but then they were hushed.
It's
Like
happened.
it's
It's happened for
forever.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah, like commercial airline pilots. You didn't see nothing. Look at how long the military shut up about things. And then like a couple of years ago, all of a sudden they have all these videos, these
Right.
aerial
Right.
phenomenon happening that they've caught on radar. So it's kind of like, it's just like, it's a tale as old as time, but we've all seen it before. Like
Yeah.
it's like a repeat with this. So
I know one of the descriptions of I can't remember which one they saw. They said it was the size of a small car and like cylindrical. So that
mhm.
reminds me of the Tic Tac UFOs that have been seen that look like Tic
Yes.
Tacs.
Yes. And then they said another one was a hectagon. And there was, I believe, something similar caught on radar that the military released video footage of in the same shape. So it's kind of like it's kind of like, okay, what's going on here?
Right.
So thinking back, it's a normal pattern. Like this is the pattern they take when something like this happens. And I know a lot of
Have
people are like,
have you
are
ever known of them actually shooting one out of the sky?
you know what? I'm sure it's happened. Like, I'm sure it's happened, but we didn't know about it. Um, there's been reports of it happening for a very long time, like as long as we've been in the sky, with warplanes, basically.
Hmm.
Um, I think the reason why this is so big is because we have access to all this technology. There's social media, there's people
Hmm.
talking to other people over the
Yep.
internet. It's not like we have to wait for a newspaper. Like we don't
They
have to
can't
pick
keep it
up.
quiet. They can't keep it quiet
Exactly.
at all.
Exactly. Somebody's always going to say something.
And there's
There's
video
always
cameras
ears.
everywhere. So,
Yep.
people see things, they automatically start recording.
Yeah. I
Like they
mean,
can't hide it.
exactly. I heard on a podcast once, they were like, well, how comes back in like 1960, people reported more UFOs? Like there was more reports than there are now. And they were like, well, because we are all looking down at our phones. Like we've got our
Mhm.
phones right here. We're not looking up at the sky anymore like they did. We're
You
looking
know,
at our phones. So then we're taking videos of these things.
right.
So, I mean, we are seeing them. We're
I
just
think
taking videos of
we're
them now.
I think we're a little more used to it because there are more videos and more photos and people actually speaking out about it now. Whereas,
Yeah.
back in the 60s and all, if somebody spoke out about it, they were immediately crazy. Like immediately.
Oh, yeah. Up until recent times, it was like, the past like 20 years, that's changed.
Yeah. And now, people will listen and people believe and they don't automatically get those labels when they say, "Hey, I saw this UFO. This really happened."
Yeah. And I think too, I think it's like a whole thing of acceptance. Like, we've been through some shit
Yeah.
in our lifetimes,
Yeah.
just you and me,
Yeah. Yeah.
not to mention like our parents and everything, all the stuff they went through. But I think with us, particularly our generation, we've seen some pretty heavy stuff. So this coming along, we're just like, okay,
Right.
cool.
Like, all right.
Okay, it's about damn time, but hey, hey, space bros.
So, what do you think the ramifications would be if they actually did shoot down a UFO? Like, I know there's different species of aliens. Like, how would they know which one it is? And are they nice? Like, are they going to start an intergalactic war? Like, what are they doing?
So this is my opinion, of course. So I think that if these beings who we call aliens, wherever they're from, if they're from another planet, if they're from another dimension, because we know that exists out there, maybe they hop from one to another. I don't think they're here to harm us.
Mhm.
Um, I believe that people that have been abducted and had things done to them, it was terrifying at the time because, you have this being come into your life, that's scary looking because it's something you've never seen before. And it's traumatizing because you weren't asked about it. But I think most cases that I've seen and heard of, it's scary, but there's nothing physically detrimental. You know what I mean? Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Like, they're
Yeah.
not meaning to harm you. Like, in a lot of cases, they're just like, hey, we're sorry we hurt you, you know? So I don't think aliens are here to like harm us. I think if they wanted to harm us, they would have done it a long time ago. Like, me and you
Right.
probably wouldn't be
Right.
sitting here.
Right.
They would have taken over and done whatever Independence Day
Right.
nonsense they're going
Right.
to do. Um, I think the whole thing too with, you know, supposedly allegedly our government making plans and deals with these beings. The more
Eisenhower.
I read, the more I think about, I really am on the fence about that. Like, I've changed my mind about a lot of things the more I think about it. And if in fact that never happened, and these are beings coming from another planet or dimension, and they're just here chilling, or they're just here to be like, hey, you guys are fucking up. We're going to come help you. And then we're over here like, bang, bang, pew, pew. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, well, why? Why would we do that? Like, maybe I was upset about it. Like, why the hell are we shooting these guys out? What if it's them? We're
And the
never
thing
going to be
about
able
this
to
is,
talk to them now.
if they
Um,
wanted to take over our planet and take our resources and all this stuff, they would have done it hundreds of years ago because their technology has been
yeah,
so far advanced and so far
yeah,
ahead of us.
they would have
Like,
done it before we have nuclear capabilities. Like, they would have done it way before now. Like,
right.
yeah, they would have done it way before now. Also too, I think a lot of crazier things would be happening. Like, I know people get abducted. I know it's scary, it's traumatizing, things happen. There's some subject matters with that I don't necessarily agree with. Um, but I think if they were here to harm us, we would see physical proof of it. Like, there would be more
Right.
issues.
Right.
Like,
Right.
yeah, there would be like a lot of crazy stuff going on. It wouldn't have
Right.
been like this. Um, I want to hope and think that if we did indeed shoot down these beings, that maybe they would understand why it was done. Like, you know, they don't know what they are. It's threat to national security. Apparently, it's a threat to like air traffic and whatnot. A plane could, with 200 people, could fly into one of these and get,
Right.
and wreck,
Right.
and 200 people are dead. So I would hope, given their technology and their advanced state, that maybe they would understand that a little bit more than like we would at the time. We're quick to judge, and we're quick to be like, well, why the hell did you do that to me? Well, maybe they're so technologically advanced and different than we are that they would be like, well, shit, okay, well, this is why they did that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, humans seem to lead with fear.
yeah,
Fear is like the underlying um, element of like every negative emotion, fear.
yeah.
And hopefully, an alien race would maybe be a little more advanced and be able to not be afraid of everything like we
Well,
are.
I don't think, from what people have stated and what people have said about what their abduction experiences, they don't have the same emotional things that we have going on. Like, we're very emotional creatures. People will want to say they're far removed for it. They're not. We're animals. We're
Yeah.
advanced animals, basically.
Yeah.
We have reactions.
Hmm.
These guys don't seem to have the same reactions we do. Like, they're very subdued in emotion and whatnot. They have control over it. So I think they're light years ahead of us as far as like emotion and understanding it and how to control it and whatnot.
Let's hope so, seeing as we may have just shot some down.
Yeah, I mean, I I'm not gonna jump on the whole like there are space bros and peaceful and loving and kind. That's really new agey and weird to me, because
Yeah.
I like to think more sciency, but I like to think that they would understand way more than what we would understand at the
Right.
time if it happened to them.
Right.
So,
Right. And I know they said that one was, I think it was the Tic Tac one, that
mhm.
I'm gonna keep calling it that. Um,
That's okay.
they said that it was um unmanned.
Yeah.
So I wonder if they sent like a drone, an alien drone. I don't know.
I think what they used to do is they used to use, like, the radar, and they'd have infrared or
Hmm.
something like that to be able to tell if something was on board that like gave off heat signals. I don't know what they do now. Um, they
But their
probably,
technology may not let them see inside.
exactly, or our ships, like our planes, attempted to contact them and there was no response. So maybe they took that as like, hey, nobody's on board. We're not getting a response back.
Maybe they
Um,
should get a keyboard.
I mean, we could go full on close encounters
Encounters of the
and
third
do the
kind,
whole
yeah.
big, like, billboard with this tunes being
Right,
played.
right. I feel like we
Um,
already have that in New York somewhere.
probably. But yeah, I mean, they probably tried to contact and they didn't respond, and because we're assuming that these beings would respond like we would.
Right.
So,
Or even be able to like speak like we would, which they probably don't.
yeah, like, what if they don't speak? As we've heard, they may
Mhm.
not. Like, it's all in their brain.
Right.
And, we sent a gold disc to the moon, and it's full of like pictures and stuff. So, for the aliens to
Wait,
understand more about us, and
wait,
it's already
wait,
outdated.
wait. What?
Okay,
Why did I not
so
know about this? What is this?
um I think it was Apollo. It's when I believe and I'm trying to remember, so I may be a little off. I think it was the first time we went to the moon.
Hmm.
When we landed, they sent, or it was one of those subsequent visits, they
Hmm.
sent a gold disc, like a gold record, and it had like a figure of a man, figure of a woman, and it had several different characteristics, details about our planet, and
So they sent
humans and
they sent a
whatnot.
record to
Yeah,
the
it's like a
aliens.
disc shape. Yeah, it's like a big
Okay.
old disc shape.
Okay.
People call it a record because it looks like a record. I don't know if it's
Okay.
necessarily a record. If
So did
anybody
it have
listening to
like
this,
almost like hieroglyphs on it, like
yeah,
drawings and stuff?
it had different things that pertain to life on planet Earth that they thought at the time would be pertinent to these
Why
aliens
are humans
knowing.
so weird? That is like the
Also,
weirdest thing. I never
yeah,
knew that happened.
also they thought that these symbols were going to be universal enough that they would be able to understand. And this was a very long time ago. So it's worth a Google for anybody out there who wants to Google it. I may be a little fuzzy on some of it because it's been a minute since I read that.
Do you
But
remember what it's called?
I would probably Google golden record on the moon. Seriously, it looks like a
That
record.
is so weird. That is so weird. Like,
yeah,
why?
Yep, it looks like a record on the. Yeah, I'm being dead serious. Here, I'm gonna do it right now.
How is it on the moon? Because there's no gravity on the moon, right?
Yeah, it's called the golden. Okay,
you pulled it
I
up.
have it right here. I sure did, girl. I sure did. Okay. All right. The golden record. Pioneers 10 and 11, which preceded Voyagers, both carried small metal plaques identifying their time and place of origin for the benefit of any other spacefarers that may find them in the distant future. The Voyager message. All right. So this was okay. So what they did was there was a 12-inch gold-plated copper disc containing sounds and images selected to portray the diversity of life and culture on Earth.
Okay.
And that's from NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory website.
What year?
So they basically parked it on the moon and was like, yo, look at this if you want to know about life on Earth. And I think it was a very long time ago. Yeah, it was a hot minute ago, 1977. So 46 years ago. Yep.
Wow.
But yeah.
That's that I learned something new. I didn't know about that at all.
Hey,
like
there you go. Useless information.
You are full of it. You're full of useless information.
And you know what? 3 days ago, I wouldn't have been thinking about this. It's only because you mentioned something, it triggered. Yep.
Right.
Big old filing cabinet.
That's kind of wild. I had no idea that existed.
Yep.
And now I'm going to have to Google it as soon as we're done.
Yep.
Does it show a picture of it?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely Googling it.
Yep. It's like a whole big thing. So, yeah. Wow. And I think there may be multiples. Like, I don't know if that's just one. I think there's maybe multiples they left. I'm not sure. But yeah, Google it. It's fun. It's real fun.
They need to do like another generation putting things up there because that would have been boomers leaving it.
Right. They need to put one up there with like Cardi B.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And like 90 Day Fiance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They totally do. And emojis.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Like the eggplant emoji. Eggplant,
we actually
LOL.
have cell phones now. Like back then, they didn't even have cell phones.
This is what iOS does. Yeah. But yeah, so golden record. Look it up. It's awesome. So
yeah, definitely gonna Google that.
Yeah.
So is that the only kind of thing that humans have like done to, I guess, try to communicate?
No. So there's different arrays, like satellite arrays. There's one in the mid southwest, a big one. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, where they just listen for ET sounds. There was another one in Arecibo, Puerto Rico. That one collapsed, so that's no longer there. I think there's other ones throughout the world where we're listening, like volunteers actively listen for any signs of like sounds from outer space and whatnot. I know that we have tried to send things out like sounds. I believe one of the arrays actually caught a sound and everybody was freaking out about it and trying to trace where it came from. and it actually came from a star that died like tons of times ago. Like it was like a radio echo from a star that had already collapsed and died. And then there was another time where they caught a sound, but it was something that we put out a long time ago and was actually came back to us.
That's
So
wild. Oh my God,
yeah,
that is so wild. Okay.
yeah. Because
Like
who knows?
I knew about like the listening devices and stuff, and
Hmm.
then you see them in movies where they're,
Yeah,
listening and they hear a code or whatever.
yeah. Like the movie
But
Contact is the one,
yes,
the really big
yes.
one that's in the West. So, and they go to
Yeah.
Arecibo. So if you want to see that, it's no longer there. But um, basically, like they think that all this radio transmission that we put out many years ago may have been floating around in space because of the radio frequencies and whatnot. So that's
Hmm.
another theory that we're that maybe space aliens, if they're from space, are listening to like I Love Lucy or something over in Zeta Reticuli, um, and thinking it's brand new, but it's really like 60 years old. So
Wow.
so that's another theory that is being bounced around that makes me giggle. Like, yeah, man.
That's so weird.
Yeah. Yep.
So weird.
Yep.
Well, learned a lot of new things tonight.
A
I feel like
lot of
I'm going to be
useless
Googling
knowledge.
all of the
Yep.
things.
Yep.
Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit about like your art and what you do and stuff like that?
Um, well, I draw weird things. Um, I draw a lot of cryptids. Currently I have a project I put into calendar form where I drew cryptids, some well-known cryptids as fae folk. Um, I also draw a lot of mystical creatures, give them extra eyeballs, sneak in magic stuff here and there. Um, I also like to write, which I haven't done in a good long while, so I have to get on it. I plan some things coming up that I really want to get into. I had an oracle card deck that I did that I'm working on relaunching. I'm kind of redoing some things. The theme is aliens.
Of course. Of course.
So, you got a happy little alien that's giving you the wisdom of the world there. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what I do is I make weird things.
Make weird
So,
things.
yeah, all my stuff's
And
weird.
for everyone listening, Christina and I were kind of throwing around the idea of doing a retreat that would almost be like trying to, I don't want to say contact, but kind of contact aliens, like kind of look for UFOs and kind of make contact in a way that's like, what is that documentary by
It's
Greer? Is it Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind?
it's
The Fifth Kind?
CE something.
Yeah, it's where you are able to contact aliens with your mind, and we want to.
Yeah, you go into deep meditation or
Yeah,
whatever, and you're able to communicate with them because they're allegedly very
right, right.
psychic,
Um, so we
mind
have been
creatures.
throwing around the idea of having a retreat and having like a small group of people come out and let's like really do a deep dive into trying to do that and trying to make contact and looking for. We would do the retreat somewhere that's active, where there've been a lot of sightings, a lot of UFOs, so that maybe we would actually be able to see something. Um,
Yeah, not a lot of light pollution.
right, right. So it would kind of be out there. Um, so that's something we've been throwing around, and hopefully sometime this year, maybe we can get that going. Hopefully,
Yes. Yep.
and we'll put more information out there about that retreat, which will be very limited because we don't want a lot of people that we have to try to teach this to.
Yeah. Well, I think it would work better with less people.
Yeah,
Like a concentration of people would be
yeah,
better.
I agree. I agree. Um, because like you said earlier, from your research, you found that most of the time they are telepathic.
Yeah.
The
Yeah. I
aliens are
mean,
telepathic.
they're not talking like we talk. They don't need
Right.
to.
Right.
Like, they don't need to. They're past that point.
Right.
Like, a lot of people report their mouths being really tiny. Well, maybe they don't have to use them,
A
you
lot of the
know?
drawings that you see of them, their mouths are
Hmm.
tiny. Like they
Yeah.
don't have like lips, and like you don't see a mouth like we have a mouth.
Yeah.
So,
Their heads are big and their eyes are big. The two things that they use the most.
right.
So
Because if
it's like the
they're
creatures that live in caves, they end up
right,
not having any
right,
eyeballs after a while
right,
because they don't need to. So,
right. Yeah. That's such an interesting concept.
yep.
I think it's because we as humans, we have to speak and, we communicate. We definitely don't communicate with our minds.
Yeah, and people don't want to think about it. Like I said earlier, we're animals. Like, we're
Right,
mammals. We're literally
right,
animals. We're still not top of the evolution chain. You know what I mean? We're not at the top yet. We're
right.
still evolving. I mean, who knows? Maybe these beings are from another dimension and they're really us, what we've become in the future. You know what I mean? It's like food for thought. Like,
No,
what
I
if,
have never thought about that. What if they are? Like, what if that's
yeah,
us?
like, what if
Future
they're,
us
yeah, what
with
if they're
big heads
not?
and talking with our minds.
Yeah, I read that once and I was like, but, you know, what if they're not from like another planet or a solar system or anything? What if they're from another dimension, another time frame, and they've actually come back and they're actually what we're going to be, a million years down the road or whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we've ceased to need a lot of the things we need now because we're past that point. It's the same way
Mm-hmm.
with emotion. We'll be past that point. We won't need emotion the way we do now. So I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, but, like, I feel like, you got a bunch of small little grays running around. They all look the same. They all act the same. Like, do we lose our identity along with, all of our characteristics in exchange for like mind control and like immense knowledge and
Right.
dimension jumping? You know what I mean? Like, it's a lot of things. Holy cow, we're getting philosophical here, but
That's a lot to think about. That's a whole lot to think about. But
yeah,
I
that's
will say that when I reincarnate the next time, I would love to come back as an alien.
right.
If I could just, skip to the alien version of me, that'd be great.
You look like one of them.
Yeah.
We could all look like Roger on American Dad.
As long as we don't act like
with his
Roger.
with his different wigs and stuff he wears. Yeah,
Right.
little outfits.
Right. Because he doesn't have hair. Oh, on that note, thank you, Christina, for talking with me tonight about all of the UFO things
Yeah, you're welcome.
and little tangents,
Yeah,
and giving us a lot to think about, because
yeah.
literally I'd never thought about them being our future selves. Like, now I'm
You're
probably gonna
welcome.
lay in bed and I'm
Now
gonna
you're
stare at the
like,
ceiling and I'm gonna be like,
shit.
are we humans?
What
Are
if,
we
yeah,
aliens in the
what if I
future?
meet what if I meet one and it's my cousin from like, generations down the road? And they
Well,
meet you and they're just like, you have our grandfather's eyes. Which
well,
grandfather?
alien abductions seem to go in families. What if it's family members
Yeah.
coming back
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
try
Like
to get their
ancestors. Yeah. Yeah.
their ancestors
Like, we've
ready?
heard of people like accessing the Akashic records. Well, this is them
Uh,
doing it real time.
right.
Like, yo, I heard you were my grandma.
Wow. Wow. I'm having a hard time wrapping my brain around that right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's literally going to be all I think about for a while.
Yep.
But
Yep.
it's a very interesting concept. Very, very interesting.
Yep. And I'm going to say something else. It's really controversial, but I'm going to throw it out there. It's going to piss some people off, but I don't care. There's no such thing as reptilians.
Oh yeah.
I said what I said.
Wasn't that a show in like the 70s?
It was based on them. Yeah. V. Yeah. In the
Yes, I
80s.
remember
I was
watching it in
watching
the
it.
80s. Yeah.
Shouldn't have been watching it. Dude, why were we watching this shit? Like, why? But yeah, that's my stance. There are
Because
no
we only had like 2
reptilians.
channels.
I know,
It
right?
came
Right.
on
We
one
had
of them.
13. Yeah, we always had 13. But yeah, like, yeah. Food for thought, folks.
Yeah, I completely agree. I don't think there's such thing as reptilians.
No. There's a lot of backup knowledge that says that they're not there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So on that note, we'll leave it at that.
Woohoo!
And we'll have to do this again because we have so much more alien stuff to talk about.
Mhm.
Because I would like to hear about abductions and stuff because you've done a lot of research on that. So we'll have to do a whole episode on abductions.
Yeah.
But thank you for talking with me tonight.
You're welcome.
And for those watching, make sure you go follow Christina at the Crescent Hair. She's on Instagram at the Crescent Hair. And she will probably be back a few times because we have a lot to talk about with her.
We do. We do. Tons of stuff about many different weird things.
Thank you for joining me for tonight's episode of The Mystical Unknown.